So the question is, how do you tell off a board member and keep her respect? This is a very important criterion because, I hate to break this to you, but board members are not infallible, even though they tend to think they are. In my most recent company, we still are, really blessed with the board situation. The board has been very supportive of us, both financially and in other ways, making introductions for sales and all sorts of things like that. But they're not always right. I got into it with one of our board members who was extremely senior at a aircraft manufacturer whose name you would know about or had been there, now retired. And she was serving on our board and still is. I want to share with you something that I've been working on for a long time that is very important to me, and that is a Discord channel for business. On it, there will be a lot of free information, but also access to me. So you can have the ability to ask me questions, and I can respond to your particular problems and difficulties, and also help you get started. I'm really looking forward to being able to interact with you individually on there. I look forward to seeing everybody on there, and I will be waiting for you. Now, let's get back to our video. She was talking about that we needed to raise prices on a particular customer. And I said, no. She was saying, well, getting money coming in is the most important thing. I said, no, it's not. Getting customers coming in is the most important thing at this stage of a startup company. She had tremendous understanding of what large companies were like. She knew nothing about small ones, certainly not from the inside. So I basically held her down and I said, if you do this, if you do what you're trying to do, you're going to lose this customer. If you lose this customer, it's going to look much worse than if we don't get the highest possible price on this. After this, yes, but not now. Well, since I did have a lot of experience in this area, she agreed to me. We did that. We kept the customer and things were good. I always treated her with respect. I never talked to her in front of a group of people. I took my concerns to her. She knew from my previous interactions with her, what was true was that I respected her greatly. But I also felt free to say, you're wrong. And she was wrong. And so it went well. You have to have the courage to do that. If your board member is one to be offended at being told, I don't think you're right, and I have the experience here that you don't have, if they won't take that, they're not a good board member. She did take it. And not only did it not impact our relationship, I think it probably improved it. Because, she probably was used to people deferring to that shouldn't have. I didn't. I didn't defer to anybody that I shouldn't. So that was how you tell off a board member, and she brought this up in a I think probably a senior staff meeting, suggesting that we do that. I said to her in the meeting, when people were expressing their opinions, that this was not a good idea, and here's why. She was still pushing it. I then waited until the meeting was over, and I went to her and I said, look, I'm going to tell you why, but it basically comes down to is I've got the experience here and you don't. You have tremendous experience in an awful lot of things I don't have experience at, but this is one area that I'm ahead. And here's my argument. Here's my experience. Here's what I've seen. And she listened. And yes, I was right. And it proved, in fact, that I was right. But she had to be the kind of person that would listen to both criticism and contrary opinion. And she did. Certainly raised my respect for her, which was already really high. So, yes, it really can help to make your relationship better if you show that you've got some backbone and you're not just deferring.
Did you ever have a different reaction than that? Different individual, maybe?
Actually, no. I have on a few occasions stood up to our board. I've always been in the odd position of being the founder, being the technological founder, and as a result, being someone they don't want to piss off. But I never push that. I have stood up to board members several times. I have the one time when all of three of us who were in the company stood up to the board member was when our seed round of financing wanted us to take a small amount of money for the next round. And we saw a recession coming in the general market, and we wanted enough money to survive it. And so we said, not $900,000, but $4 million. And they said, there's only one way to settle this, go out and raise your money yourself. So we said, bye. And we went out and we raised the money ourselves, which they didn't think we could do, but we did. And of course, they never spoke to us again. They were seriously pissed off, but they were wrong. They were seeing it from their perspective as a seed investor who could not raise that kind of money. We were seeing it from a company that had to survive a coming recession, which we did.
Have you ever seen someone try this and fail?
Oh yes, I've seen it happen where a person has stood up to the board. An example I can give: if you are a senior member of the company, and things have gotten with the CEO really bad, as it has twice and almost three times in my career, where you have to go to the board and talk to them about doing something, or the company's going to be losing people that they really need, and they should get rid of the CEO. And I've done that 3 times. If it's the wrong board, you will wind up the person they hate, not the person who should be removed. I was very fortunate in all 3 times that I had to do that, because I was the founder, so that's why I had to do it. I was fortunate in that case that I was backed by the entire executive staff all 3 times. And so they could talk with anybody they want and get exactly the same answer. And I had a good board that would listen.
What's the biggest misconception people have about dealing with higher-ups?
People have 2 misconceptions that sound like almost exact opposites. One of the ones that they have is they think that they don't put their clothes on the same way we do. In other words, that there's something special about them. No, they're winging it just like the rest of us. They just may be winging it at a higher level. So they're normal human beings, no matter who they are, and dealing with them as normal human beings isn't a sin. The opposite is that you don't treat them with the respect that they really do deserve. If somebody just brought you several $1 million, treat them well. Don't treat them like they're your buddy, unless of course they are your buddy. Treat them professionally. Treat them in the context of the company as they would expect to be treated. Especially if they're like the chairman, which is a more senior position on the board. But I've never had any trouble doing that. It seemed like it's a natural thing. I respect the office, if not the person. And fortunately, I've been such that since I could partially control who was on my board, I managed to respect the person too.
That's awesome. If you had to do it again, would you change anything about it, or about how you handled the situation?
I wouldn't be nervous. That would be about the only change, because the first time I'd done something quite that open. In simply saying, no, you're wrong. I knew her pretty well, and I didn't think it would go badly, but I was still nervous because it was the first time. Now I wouldn't be nervous at all. I'd just do it. Quite often, by the way, it's not standing up to the board, it's informing the board because they don't know. Mm-hmm. The boards do not see the internal functioning of a company day to day, nor should they. A sure sign that your board is being nitpicky and over-controlling is if they're involved in the day-to-day running of the company. It either means the company's in bad shape or they don't know what they're doing. I've had both of those occur. So that's it's most of the time it's simply informing them. Sometimes it's finding out that they've been having conversations but didn't want to do anything because they thought the executive staff felt one way, and the executive staff was having exactly the same conversations but thought the board felt that way, and you're just bridging that gap. So I remember one CEO went in and talked to our chairman, and he said, after listening to me and my buddy that were with him, the 2 of us who were the founders, said, this is the second conversation on this topic I've had today. Meaning the board had the same conversation, but thought we were on the other side. I said, no, I can speak for every single member of the executive staff. So getting your ducks lined up. Now, if you lose, you're gone. If somehow the board backs the CEO, I'm just talking of the case where you remove a CEO, but usually, you won't try this unless it's gotten really bad. And in all three cases, the CEO was out of his depth and was abusing people or lying to people or hurting the company with fraudulent things that was going on. And just simply presenting those to any honest board will get the same reaction that I got. But he has to go.
Okay. Well, Dave, thank you for telling me how to tell off a board member.
It's not fun. It's not fun. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed today's talk. Please like and subscribe and get on notifications.